Welcome to the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. I'm your host, Jacob Cooper, author of Life After Breath and the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. For those of you who are new to my podcast, please consider supporting the channel by hitting that subscribe button and sharing your comments in the comment sections. For those who have been here before, we welcome you back. You could also follow the audio syndicated podcast on mindbodyspirit.fm. Today's guest on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder is a unique and very special guest who has a very interesting story of his own pre birth memories, which is going to be fascinating. His name is Christian Sundberg. He's also an author and a sought after speaker on consciousness, the other side, and his own direct stories that give him an insight to our life's purpose and some of the bigger existential questions. So buckle up your seatbelts. We're going to have a wonderful interview that I know so many of you are going to benefit from. So without further ado, we bring on Christian Sundberg on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. Christian Sundberg, thank you so much, my man, for coming on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. It is so good having you here.
It's an honor to see you, sir.
You know, brother Christian, we've been corresponding for months, and thank God, timing is everything, and we're glad to have you. Christian, you've been really making the rounds in the circuit with your work, and I've come across so many different people who have really been impacted by your story and your experience. I've interviewed a lot of guests, over 100, but never before do I recall having someone with as unique as a journey and experience as yours that includes memories before birth, something that's very close to my soul and doing a lot of between lives soul regression, something that I see periodically. But for those of you who may be unfamiliar, what are pre-birth memories, if you will, before we get into your journey for audience members who may never heard of these concepts?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, so pre-birth memories are awareness of existence before being physical, before the human
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah.
So there's no good language for this. I'm just going to disclaim real quick. I have to say this every time. It's really
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
that human language can't possibly do justice to this.
Hmm.
Language is form, symbols,
Hmm.
and what we truly are so fully transcends this context and all of its assumptions
Hmm.
that words just absolutely do not do it justice. So I'm just putting
Yeah.
that out there first. So pre-birth memory is awareness of a time between lifetimes.
Hmm.
And my body is 45 years old right now. And when my body was 30, I had been meditating for a number of months and I began to
Yeah.
have out of body experiences.
Mhm.
And then the pre-birth memory was just there. I realized I had that memory up until about the age of 5, and it had left me completely between the ages of like 5 and 30.
Yeah.
And then when it was there, it was like the most natural, normal thing in the world, actually. It wasn't like a huge epiphany. It was like someone had just blown leaves off of the ground, and there was the ground. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's what we really, it's really more real than even this. So it's kind of the more normal
Mhm.
state.
Christian, I wanted your perspective on from your story. It seems like memory is a big part of your journey. But for seekers, what's the correlationship, I suppose, with memory and spirituality or awakenings, if you will?
Mhm.
Is that something of a gift that we all have? Do we all have the ability to have? Memories like you just described in your 30s. Is that and
Yeah.
what's the correlationship between spiritual awareness and recollection?
Yeah. So, first of all, what we really are, we have to start there.
Mm,
What we really are is consciousness itself, which can't be described. We are
mhm,
multidimensional beings of love. And so, really, the question is, can we know what we really are? And the answer is yes. But why typically do we not commonly consciously remember our higher nature while we're walking around on
mhm.
the earth? It's because that's part of the game here. And we accept something that
Right.
we have a term for this. We call it the veil.
Mhm,
Veil is just the limitations that we bring, that are brought to us that we adopt and take on in order to have the human
mhm,
experience. So they are a set of the constraints of the biology, and it includes what feels like having your memory wiped. That's how I
Mhm.
experience it. So it's like a loss of memory. So that's why we typically don't have access to that, but that's built in. That's part of the game.
Mhm.
We do that in order to have the experience of the human character, to be the human and to operate from that human's perspective and not from the perspective of everything else, but from the from this perspective today, like on a Monday, and on Earth. That's exactly the perspective we come to have.
Mhm.
So, to your question, how are they related? Well, the spiritual path is really about going and seeing and investigating and
Mhm.
experiencing, pursuing, knowing what we really are
Mhm.
and what is real. We can say that spirituality is the pursuit of what is actually real, like really, really real. Like we
Mhm.
in meditation, we go and we investigate deeply. With great alertness and objectivity and clarity, we investigate. We find
Right.
I'm not even the thoughts. I'm
Yeah.
not even the
Mm.
feelings. They arise
Mhm.
within me. So
Mhm.
spirituality is the investigation and discovery of what is actually real. And
Mhm.
as we do that, we may find that we have memory of something higher because the local experience is taking place within the higher, like on
Mm.
it and in it.
Mhm.
And so it's not necessary to have, some kind of specific form memory. In fact, I certainly never anticipated that. I wasn't trying to do anything in meditation. And when I
Mhm.
first started meditating, I continued at first because it just felt relieving, you know. And then after a
Right.
few months, I had my first non-physical experience, and it shocked the crap out of me. It wasn't subtle, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh man, now I got to keep going. I got to keep investigating." And
Mhm.
I find that for me, it wasn't like I went and like found this thing called pre-birth memory. No, it was more like I became more and more deeply personally aware and familiar with what I am. Like what is consciousness beneath thought?
Mhm.
And as I became very deeply familiar with that, oh, then all of a sudden the physical could be seen within it and the pre-birth memory was just there too. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like I always give this example on a physical level where there was a certain period of time where people saw the earth as flat, and that was the case. But some people were daring to challenge the paradigms of the time and they explored and they found new worlds and new lands. And it seemed like that was a case for you where this gift of curiosity, as well as vulnerability, the ability
Yes.
to have a reality that goes far beyond the box, which for some people could be scary.
Yeah,
So,
I'm glad you
yeah.
mentioned that actually, because it was curiosity, but it was primarily an incredibly humbling process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredibly humbling because I had certain belief systems up until that point in my life that I had to completely surrender, and that was very scary.
Yeah.
And, so it's ironic I have found, at least in my case, that I needed to become so comfortable with not knowing. Like, so deeply surrendered to all of my actual fear that was down there and see it and feel it and completely be open to everything that was within me, including all of the fears that my ego was covering up. You see, that's a very humbling and vulnerable process. And it's ironic because as we say yes to that, we say yes to surrendering control.
Mhm.
And as we
Mhm.
do that, it like the inverse tends to happen, where
Yeah.
all of a sudden we've let go of the false power of the ego
Mhm.
and the much larger aspect of ourself kind of comes forth and it's so much more powerful.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it definitely was a journey of vulnerability for sure.
I know I've interviewed a lot of guests who have had epiphanies, and what they often say is epiphanies or awakenings by themselves, don't necessarily change a person, but what you do with them and what you learned about them can. My question for you is before we get into your, profound awakening and epiphany, was there something going on with you, let's say in your early 30s that drew you to meditation? Was there a part of you that felt like this didn't make sense, or what does it take for this to work in this human experience? Or I'm just curious as to what propelled you to go within, if you will.
Sure. Well, I think I've always been a spiritually minded person, but that took the form of Lutheran Christianity for my early adult life up until 30.
Mhm.
Um, So I now know that one of the, if not the primary intention of this life was for me to face a fear, to process a very specific low vibration fear.
Mhm.
And so I had a traumatic experience at the age of 22
Yeah.
that gave me the opportunity to re-experience that fear. And I had post-traumatic stress for a number of years after that experience. It was a
Wow.
health experience.
Mm,
And I went through years of EMDR therapy counseling.
mm,
And through that, I encountered hundreds of layers of fear and
mhm,
worked through them, and I felt so much. I mean, it just sounds simple to say it, but I became so willing to feel incredible amounts of different types of pain and fear.
mhm,
And so that was a prerequisite, is why I'm mentioning all that, because
mhm,
I didn't know it at the time, but my willingness to actually see and feel all those layers all the way down to this really, really powerful, very low vibration root
mhm,
fear, that was the precursor.
mhm.
And then, so in the physical sense, it was like I remember watching a video from the physicist Tom Campbell. He's a spirituality teacher and
Sure.
explorer.
Yeah.
And he made a statement in one of his videos that kind of like nudged me the wrong way, actually. It kind of irritated my ego.
Mm,
And I remember this little tiny nudge inside of me lifting up and saying, "Why did that sting?" Like, and I said,
mm,
"Oh, why? Yeah, why did that sting?" And so it led me to actually investigate his work. I read his book. And the most important thing Tom said was, "Go meditate, go find out. Go look for yourself, don't believe me. Go
mm.
investigate, go be a scientist about it." I'm like,
Right.
"Okay." So that's
Yeah.
so that's how it started for me. But like I said, when I first began, I just felt relief. I didn't realize how painful it is to constantly be wrapped up in the momentum of thought all the time. It's just
Yeah.
very, like, painful experience actually to be thinking
Mhm,
constantly. So there was relief at first, but like I said, after a few months, I had a non-physical experience that really opened my eyes, and I was like,
mm.
"Wow, this is actually real. Like, I need to keep going down this path. I need to keep investigating." And that's how it
Wow.
unfolded for me. Yeah,
So through this, non-physical experience, you recognize that there was a you beyond the thoughts, the emotions, or what I call you beyond the you, if you will.
mm,
If you don't mind sharing, I love stories, and I know my listeners do too.
sure,
What was that experience that you had that went beyond the
yeah,
physical that got you to say, "Whoa, there's a lot more at play than what
yeah.
I've held on to."
I actually wouldn't qualify it as a moment of the you beyond the you, because
Right. Yeah.
the personality actually can and does engage higher reality systems too. And the
Mm.
true you with a capital Y is actually transcendent of even those. But anyway, so
Yeah. Yeah.
what happened for me was, and this doesn't, it's hard to convey how this felt and how this
Mhm.
was experienced. I was
Mm.
sleeping. I was in a dream. It was just a normal dream at first. And in this dream, I was standing with my son,
Mm.
and there was this tidal wave that was going to come over me and crush us, and it was going to kill us.
Mm.
And in the dream, I told myself, "Okay, we're going to die." It was like I was telling my son and telling myself, like, I told him, "Let go." And I told myself, "You can let go of the body and just die."
Mm.
And that was just a dream. But at that moment when I did that, suddenly my alertness level dramatically increased, because non-physical experiences are at least as lucid as waking physical life, and often far more lucid, like more
Mhm.
real, more
Yeah.
tangible. So I was
Absolutely.
suddenly in a hyper conscious state in which I was experiencing extremely violent vibrations.
Wow.
And when I say violent vibrations, I mean they were physical and they were loud. Like, this was
Mhm.
not subtle. This was not like a little tingle. This was like someone had parked a jet engine on either side of my head, and it was
Oh,
blasting me with the loudest sound I'd
wow.
ever heard, and I was being vibrated so
Wow.
violently that it felt to me, it was like, the way I might say it is, it was like the most physical vibration I'd ever felt, even
Wow.
though
Mm.
it was a non-physical
Mm.
experience. And I was stuck
Mhm.
there for maybe 15 seconds, I don't know, it seemed like a long, really long time.
Mhm.
And so then my body woke up, I jumped out of bed, I was sweating. 'Cause it was,
Wow.
like, not subtle, and that's all it was. But it was so intense, and it was so visceral, and it was so lucid, and so rich, and I was like, "What the heck was that?" Like, I didn't know what it was, but I didn't try to label it, I just
Right.
knew, wow, that was real.
Was yeah.
And subsequent to that, as I continued down the path, I began to have other types of experiences that were more, I would say structured, higher reality systems where there's living light that is so bright and colorful and alive
Mm,
that it is pure bliss to behold, to look at, even for 1 second. I remember this one experience being in this area that it looked like a human landscape. There was a sky and trees and a path,
mhm,
and there was all these colors in the sky. There was this red in the sky, and I remember the grass was green, and I was looking at the red in the sky, and it was so vibrant and alive
mm,
that it had like a life to it. It was, like, alive,
mm,
and I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, how can that red be so red?" And I looked at the grass, and the grass was, like, glowing. It was
mm,
emitting a green energy, and I could feel that it was a part of me, even though I could also see it from where I was
mhm,
standing, quote, unquote. And I remember thinking, "I could spend all day looking at this grass,
mm.
and it would be bliss." Like,
Yeah.
that's how beautiful just 1 inch of this grass was. So, when you have experiences like that, and then you come back to the physical,
Yeah.
this is like a black and white movie by comparison. This is dull, this is slow, this
Mm,
is clunky, and even the feeling of returning to the body, so to speak, it feels so dense. For me, it feels like being shoved inside of a tuna can, like a little fish can.
oh,
It
God.
feels so like I'm not
Mhm.
supposed to fit in there, but all of me just gets shoved into this tiny little can, and it's so, like, unnatural feeling, actually.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know for a lot of people who have NDEs, OBEs, STs, they commonly feel a hard time reintegrating back, or they feel a sense of homesickness,
Oh, yeah.
or just a lot of values and priorities tend to shift. Is that, kind of what happened to you after having a lot of these? I mean, I hate
Yeah.
words, but it sounds like spiritually transformative experiences or almost
Yes.
OBEs or,
Yes,
yeah,
I absolutely have experienced profound amounts of homesickness.
yeah.
And I remember in my pre-birth experience actually asking for a small bit of memory and then telling me I could have that, I could do that, but that it would make the experience even more difficult. And I knew it was because, well, I would have to have increased sensitivity, but also there was this level of homesickness that would be involved.
Mhm.
And the homesickness is no joke. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like if you meet near death experiencers, often they say, and they're not like being negative or suicidal. They just say, I can't wait to die. Like I want to go home. Like why am I here? And I
Mm,
mean, and I chuckle at it, but it's a no joke calling. It's a deep, compelling feeling to want to be there, to want to be released from these constraints and experience the joys of our higher nature. That's a very
mhm.
normal,
Yeah.
natural kind of a response. So I definitely feel that.
Mhm.
And I can feel the veil sitting on me now.
Hmm.
So I feel it. It's hard to explain, but it's like in those cop shows where they interview someone inside of like an interrogation room and the police officers can see into the room, but inside the room they can't see out.
Mhm.
It's kinda like that. There's like a single way pane of glass resting on and in my awareness, and
Right.
I can feel it. I can see it in my consciousness, but I can't see past it. I'm still veiled,
Mm.
but I can see it's there, and so
Right.
it's this kind of tantalizing, like, "Oh, it's so close. The other side is
Right.
so close," and yet the veil remains firm.
I've heard someone give the analogy of almost kind of like being in an airport and stuck, like, in the airport, but not able to go to the actual city,
Yeah,
if you will.
yeah, that's a
Um,
good metaphor. I like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wanted to get into some of your pre-birth memories, if you will, in a bit. I
Sure.
guess my question though is, and certainly a lot of that I'm sure has come with a lot of dharma and meaning and lessons from your experience. But my from hearing all this, my first question is why would a soul leave, that place of bliss, if you will, or do they even leave? Are we still on this earth and still
Mhm.
connected to that higher place, but why reincarnate? Why, leave that place of absolute bliss that
Yeah.
experienced in a lot of your, transformative experiences?
Yeah, so technically, we never leave.
Oh,
So
that's a yes, that's a
that's really important to lift up, and that was
mhm.
quite a discovery for me because I remember Tom Campbell saying something like that in one of his interviews, like, "You're still on the other side right now." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm still on the other side right now? I see my living room," you know?
Right, right, right.
Don't tell me that, I don't see that, you know? But I
Mhm.
have found that that's actually true. The physical is actually arising on and in your consciousness.
Hmm.
and your
Wow.
consciousness is still there. It always was there.
Mhm.
Okay, but of course, the deeply simulated experience is one of separation. It's this state of limitation we're in now, where we're like looking out of our eyeballs and
Mhm.
making choices as the human, right? So
Mm.
why do that, right?
Yeah.
The short answer is that the leverage opportunity in this level of contrast is extraordinary.
Hmm.
So the opportunity for personal and collective expansion is huge. So
Mhm.
what does that mean? Like expansion of what?
Yeah.
Well, the substance that we are is spirit.
Mhm.
And that substance, while we cannot label it, it can't be labeled. We can try some labels. That substance is love and bliss and freedom.
Mm.
And so that living aliveness, that living unconditional love and bliss, it it is that which is. And
Mhm.
you could say it plays a game, so to speak, even though this doesn't feel like a game many times when it gets real serious and hard.
Oh, no.
But it takes on an exercise in which it
Mhm.
commits itself into a set of contrast, because that contrast allows it to explore something that it's not. And in
Mhm.
exploring something that it's not, by integrating that place that it's not, or those perspectives that it's not, because that's really ultimately what we're dealing with here is perspective and
Mhm.
actual conscious experience, and the intention that we wield through it. That's a very
Mhm.
important part of this. As we integrate that experience and as we wield intention that is more in alignment with love rather than fear, those are the
Mhm.
two main mechanisms: integration of experience and choosing love and processing fear. As we do that, it allows a refinement of that being, an expansion of that being. So,
Mm.
what is the expansion? It is the expansion of love and joy. That's
Mm.
ultimately what all this is for.
Okay.
So to answer in a simple metaphor, I've said this many times, but I think it's not a terrible metaphor. Imagine you're sitting on your couch in your living room watching TV, and you've got full access to the snacks, and everything's easy. You got Netflix, and you could
Yeah.
binge Netflix all day. Why would you ever go for a run? Like,
Mm.
why would you actually go outside, put yourself under physical stress? Well, because that stress enables a strengthening of your body. It enables actually an invigoration of who you are. And when you
Mm.
come back to the couch, you can actually appreciate it in a way that you might not have even been able to appreciate it before, you
Yeah.
see? So the contrast of the physical is like a high degree of that, because
Mm.
this reality is very high contrast, very high limitation, very strict rule set, very, very dense. And the experience of separation that we are so deeply engaging right now is quite unique. Like, this is
Mm.
the place where if you wanna actually experience separation, this is the place. And
Yeah.
so being able to actually experience separation and make choices from this separate perspective and wield an intention that is loving rather than fearful and integrate this level of density, that is a profound opportunity. So
Mhm.
all that is to say, it is a profound opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for the expansion of being through the integration of experience, and that is
Yeah.
very, very valuable. I remember my pre-birth experience actually feeling like I had won the lottery.
Wow.
Just being able to play a human, one human life.
Hmm.
It was like all that is had brought me a winning lottery ticket,
Man.
and it was so valuable. And I was like, me out of all the beings, I get to play a human. Oh my god, it's like such a sense of honor.
Hmm.
So I know that we don't often feel that now,
Mhm. Right.
here in the muck, so to speak, right? But honestly, this is an absolutely profound opportunity, and every single day we wake up and make choices here in this context, it is a gold mine for the
Mhm.
spirit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a try to quick response to your question.
I love it, and especially as a lifelong long distance runner, I'm gonna use that analogy because
Right.
that's a good one, and I loved how you're able to talk about the opportunity because 'cause I've seen a lot of evidential mediums speak about souls lining up to,
Yes.
come back to this reality, and so many people, especially with everything going on, these days, are like, you gotta be kidding me." But you were able to really spell it out from firsthand evidential experiences that this indeed is an opportunity, for the growth of the soul. And this past week, I mentioned on my social media that I woke up to that song by Debbie Reynolds and Charlotte's Web called Mother Earth and Father Time, and I was weeping and crying because the essence of the song embracing the eternity of life, but just how special and sacred it is. So, this message is something that I do believe, people need to hear now more than ever. So, I thank you for really sharing that. Wow. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I was, doing a deep dive on all things Christian Sundberg, and I was just learning. They just have so much information to provide. But from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, you had memories that you knew of as an infant and child, and then there was a gap where, those memories
Yeah.
weren't at play. Was there a particular, like, reason for that? Because I know most kids,
Mhm.
it's kind of like they're as spiritual beings, someone asked me, "What was your childhood like?" I would say it's kind of like a beach ball. I did everything I could to put that beach ball down, but eventually that thing just came up. Was that a little bit of your experience too, where you tried to fit in, be normal, and suppress or repress these things, or that was just the natural unfoldment of the universe that said, "We don't want you knowing this or understanding this now. At another time, it will be more, palatable for your tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about that gap that I saw in
Sure.
interviews.
Well, I can at least say that it's very normal that as we become form associated,
Mhm.
the veil does its job.
Hmm.
So, form associated means once you believe you are the body, you are the name, you are the story your parents are telling you,
Yeah.
you associate into that form set,
Mhm.
the focus into it, and the association of consciousness into it tends to solidify the veiled experience. So
Mhm.
the veil applies to us the moment we incarnate. I mean, that's how I experience it. And it is, I mean, for me, I felt it like an erasure of memory. So I had
Mhm.
no conscious knowing of my higher nature after incarnation. However, the form association is very low very early in life. And so very young people
Mhm.
will tend to be able to go and come much more easily. Babies can go out of body very easily because it's just, "Oh, I'm already over there," like we
Mhm.
talked about.
Yeah.
But once we are really focused on the physical for a while and have taken on that identity,
Mhm.
oh, it's quite normal to become lost in it, and for
Yeah.
that to be that's who you are. You're just this, human right now.
Mhm.
That the veil enables that, and it's very good at enabling that. So, yeah,
Mhm.
between the ages of, like, 5 and 30, I had no memory of this at all.
Well, there's a lot of BS in our belief system, isn't there? Yeah.
Belief system.
BS and BS, right? Yeah. But that's actually not mine, but Suzanne Giesemann, my
Yeah.
friend and colleague, uses that a lot, and I love it. But
It's true.
you would say there's a big association with behaviors and beliefs, right? From your experience
Association what do you mean by an
with
association with
with
behaviors and
like
beliefs?
our own core beliefs that we're just this, and as a result, we're gonna
Yes.
engage in the world differently. But
Absolutely. So,
yeah,
yeah, our beliefs are basically a lens through which we experience everything in the physical.
yeah,
They color everything, and our core beliefs become so deep in us that
mhm,
we no longer realize that there are beliefs. They appear to be characteristics of reality itself.
mhm, yeah,
And so that's one of the main things that we're working with as consciousness is we slip inside this perspective and we're kind of usually handed a pile of beliefs by our parents,
mhm,
and then they develop as we age. And then we see through that lens. We see through the light gets bent by the lens of
yeah,
belief.
yeah,
And then this very important thing happens, though many people might not fully utilize the opportunity here. Then we get to choose how does my experience actually feel now that I'm wearing this lens of belief? How does
mm,
this lens color my experience? Because if you have a belief that is limiting,
mhm,
shameful, any kind of negative self-perception, that is not gonna feel good. And
mhm,
so, it's kind of like a form of feedback, like, "Oh, you're wearing this lens? Okay, this is, how reality feels now."
right,
So, I could to say it even deeper though, it's not just the belief, it's all actually about quality of intention. So, what intention are we wielding? A loving intention or a fear-based intention? And belief is just one of the many structures that we're engaging. And
mhm,
so, the reason I'm saying that is belief can be used with loving intention or
mhm,
fear based intention. And many times, as we awaken, it means we have to examine our own beliefs and what fears they're covering up because belief is one of the main tools of the ego, which is in service of fear.
mhm,
And belief is a nice way to protect us. So as
Yeah.
we awaken, it's this actually this process of kind of, I mean, at least for me, it was very much a process of deconstructing belief and finding the fear that was underneath there, finding all the things I really didn't know that I
Mhm.
thought my belief was solving and it really wasn't, you see?
Mm.
Yeah. So there's a great freedom as we release belief and begin to see with just clarity, just
Mhm.
N clarity of consciousness where not even thoughts need to be taken that
Mhm.
seriously, they can be seen for what they are, and reality kind of opens up as we do that, and we become much more empowered to see our own beliefs and to even modify them, play with them however we wish.
Would you say that's more defined as a knowing, if you will? What you described, like just a direct experience without any room for doubt, just a direct awareness of source. Is that would be a
So,
knowing?
yeah, our higher nature when experienced is a knowing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very, very, it's beyond a given thought.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of a different topic, I think, than belief itself, which tends to
Mhm.
be a form set. So belief
Mhm.
is, I believe these certain things. This is how the world works. There's usually mental elements. When we
Mhm.
talk about
Yeah.
belief, we're talking about a thought framework that we have bought into.
Mhm.
Whereas one of the reasons when we talk to spiritually awakened people, they often say it came in as a knowing, or I just had
Mhm.
all this information all at once. Well, that's because it's from a layer of the self
Mhm.
that transcends that smaller form set and can see
Mhm.
it much more completely all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I when you listen to some of the, old school scientists such as Albert Einstein, they almost sound like spiritual teachers or if you will. And one of the quotes that I think really speaks to what we're going to get into by Einstein is life random chaos or the universe random chaos, a place of intentionality, or somewhere, in between?
Mm.
Now, for you having these
Mhm.
pre-birth memories, it seems like that was a way of understanding that you and life is not random, that you were on this earth, but not of it. Um, my question is twofold. A, is that something that you took? And also B, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit of some of the takeaways that you experienced, I believe, in your early 30s that you're able to remember of this pre-birth planning, because that to me is profound and it really
Yeah.
bodes well with what Einstein, proposed in that major existential question.
Yeah. So first of all, the okay, the rule set of the physical reality is known, but
Mhm.
the rule set actually has probability built into it, meaning things can happen within the rule set that leaves room for how the physical might actualize. I'm
Mm.
lifting that up as an important point because it's not predetermined.
Mhm.
It's that we actually do have free will within the limits.
Mhm.
Within
Yeah.
within the limitations of the simulation, we can choose anything that we can identify
Mhm.
and anything that the physical rule set allows. Those are the
Mhm.
2 constrictions. We need to
Yeah.
know that a choice is possible, and the physics are only gonna work a certain way.
Mhm.
But importantly, even all the physics, even the way everything manifests is actually probabilistic, meaning that it's not completely firm, and the level of certainty or uncertainty about something changes how probable it is.
Mm.
Okay, the only reason I'm mentioning that is to your question is because what is actually happening here is a bunch of conscious participants making choices. Every day, everyone gets up and makes choices.
Mhm.
And the choices affect other people, other beings, and they change what choices those beings can make and what kind of
Mhm.
experience they will have, per the rule set. So in my pre-birth experience, I could see that the system, the higher spiritual system that's giving rise to this whole
Mhm.
simulation, it knows all the players in the game really, really, really well, and it knows the rule set. So it's really good at predicting outcome.
Mm.
But predicting outcome is not the same at any given point in time as certain outcome because there is free will.
Yeah.
And that is the very beauty of this world is that novelty can happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm lifting that up because in my pre-birth plan, I experienced reviewing this life like reviewing a flow chart.
Mm.
This is just a metaphor.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like if somebody took a huge tree, a huge, huge tree, and laid it on its side, and I started at the thick part of the trunk and worked my way out to the branches and I reviewed millions of possibilities of what this life might be like all at once within like
Wow.
a second, like half a
Hmm,
second. I
hmm,
reviewed millions of possibilities. I could see all the major branches, what
mhm,
was more likely, what was less likely. I could see the themes that would kind of prevail through this life. I was aware of potential exit points. I could feel aspects of how
mhm,
other people would probably affect me. I knew it was very likely that I would be given a chance to re-experience this root fear that
mhm,
had bested me in a previous experience, and I wanted the chance to re-experience that, and I saw it was very likely that this would provide the opportunity, and that in my early 20s, there would be some kind of actualization, and what did happen, yes, it was a health crisis that gave me the opportunity to re-experience the fear.
mm,
So that was a probabilistic tree, and I'm lifting that up because it's not just predetermined, it's
mhm,
more like the system is really, really smart and
mhm,
knows us really well, but we do have choice. Every choice we make is choosing which path are we actualizing, which path are we going down today, and that's
mhm,
really important. That's the value of the game is what are we going to choose? And you might choose B when we thought you were going to choose A. That's interesting. Now let's see what happens. That kind of
mhm.
thing.
So that really entertains a big question that a lot of seekers have, which is the debate of destiny versus free will,
Mhm.
in a way. And, there, and also the concept of timelines, how we have the
Mhm.
ability to alter timelines based
Yes,
on our decisions, and free will. What
absolutely.
makes, I guess, some people more habitually I guess more I'm trying to find the word, but better make better or more effective or higher choices, if you will. Because I know in life
Mm,
a lot of people could get very stuck and habituated and some more flexible. I mean, someone asked me like, how do you find mental health working the field? I would just say
mm.
adaptability to change is very
Yeah.
Darwinian. It's very about
Mm.
flexibility. Would you say that's the same thing too within our own lives is being adaptable,
Yes.
flexible, and also intentional, within,
So
what we're doing. Yeah.
so those descriptors you just used,
Mhm.
I would say are elements of love, of evolvedness.
Mhm.
A more evolved being will tend to be more adaptable.
Mm.
Because they've experienced, they've learned, so to speak, not just intellectual learning.
Mhm.
I'm saying learning through experience, through growth, you know.
Mhm.
Love and the true um, unbridled freedom and joy and power of spirit has so many, well, let's just use the word virtues
Mhm.
for a minute. So many types of quality that can
Mhm.
shine through the physical. Adaptability might be one, courage,
Mhm.
compassion, kindness, humility.
Mhm.
There's countless of these qualities, and we do come to kind of work through and evolve sometimes in very specific qualities.
Mhm.
So the opposite of that is what we could just say is yet unevolvedness, which
Mhm.
is a synonym for fear,
Mhm.
which is a synonym for smallness and getting trapped in rejection and in all the negative self perceptions that tend to confront us on earth.
Yeah.
Negative self perceptions like shame, which is being unworthy of love, or lack of freedom, lack of power.
Mhm.
These are very common negative self perceptions on earth. And a being that is less evolved may not have fully worked through that yet.
Mhm.
And once we do work through it, we are released and our
Mhm.
decision space increases. That's a Tom Campbell term. So basically, more evolved beings have wider decision space.
Mhm.
But I want to lift up here though that even though that's true,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that if in your life, boy, you're having a really hard time, that means you're not an evolved being. No, the constraints here are so high. The types of challenges that can be actualized here are so incredibly hard
Mhm.
that it can, even very evolved beings can have times when they are so overwhelmed or,
Mhm.
brought low by the many pains and challenges of earth.
Mhm.
The question isn't whether or not those things have happened. The question is always, what do we do with it?
Mm.
We always, always, always have the power to choose how to respond
Mhm.
and to choose what meaning we put on it, what our
Mhm.
beliefs are about it. We have much more room for how we hold. Like, imagine that what life is bringing you is like objects being placed into the palm of your hand. The
Yeah.
question isn't what has arrived into your hand. The question is, how do you hold it?
Mhm.
What do
Yeah.
you do now that it has arrived, you see?
Mhm.
That's the power.
Yeah.
So, yes, we do have so much more power than we typically give ourselves credit for. We can choose ease. We
Mhm.
can choose adaptability. We
Mhm.
can have mercy on ourselves,
Mhm.
patience with ourselves. When we've gone through all this trauma and all this pain,
Right.
we can put things down and say, my goodness, I am worthy of a rest. That's just an
Mhm.
example. It
Mhm.
can mean so many different things. So, one of the main things we learn, though, is as these types of challenges arise, can we listen to our actual selves?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the actual loving self that knows there's nothing to fear and we are joy and love. And it might intuitively prompt something that might not even make sense to the thinking mind, some action or you know, some path that doesn't
Mhm.
seem like it makes a lot of logical sense. It could be something simple.
Mhm.
So we actually grow also in our ability to even listen to that intuition. And once we open that door and start being authentic wherever we are,
Mhm.
that tends to accelerate. It tends to pick up. And we live lives that are more and more and more in accordance with our true nature.
Ex
So a simple way to put all that is willingness. Are
Willingness.
we willing to
Mhm.
feel our crap? Are we willing to
Mhm.
choose a good but difficult path? Are we willing to put things down? Are we
Yeah.
willing to forgive? Like
Mhm.
all the ways that we may be stuck. Are we willing to face that and
Mhm.
maybe choose something else? And that's like the magic ingredient because that is intention. You see,
Mhm.
willingness is intent, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah. It seems to mean that there seems to be that there needs to be a lot more diffusion of things that are not adaptive or productive on our journeys, and discernment that
Mm,
people could have as to, like, what's going to help you grow, evolve, or get to the place of where your soul really wants to go. And I think a lot of that is discernment,
mm,
diffusion. When it comes to love, I mean, think I don't know what your thoughts on this, but it seems like we're living a little bit in interesting times and somewhat of a parallel universe where people in their own minds and hearts are operating from what they view is loving. But,
mhm,
one person says is love is what another person says is hatred or bigotry,
mhm.
and all this and all that. So, I know obviously the Greeks obviously had many different layers of terminology of love. But for you, Christian, and your pre-birth memories and all of your profound experiences, how do you feel people could have more of a universal language of love? Because that seems to be a little bit of a missing link, so to speak, that has led to a divide, because I think everyone in their own right mind is doing what they feel
Yeah.
is what's best and what's loving. And it
Mhm.
seems very almost like a parallel universe that we're in these days.
So, first of all, I want to lift up this idea that there is actually a subtle but very powerful quality
Hmm.
to the intention that people wield.
Hmm.
So, if someone is choosing, you said bigotry as an example, I
Hmm.
think you used that word.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I'm
yeah.
just going to pull that out. No,
Right,
let's lift it up for a second.
right.
The thinking mind may have built a structure of belief
Hmm.
in which bigotry seems to be the right thing.
Hmm.
But there is a very subtle quality
Hmm.
underneath that whole structure that if the person is willing, they will find and feel it doesn't quite feel right.
Hmm.
So the location of the quality of the soul is important
Hmm.
because that quality will mean different things in different circumstances and it's not just one code of action. It's a quality through which action arises and choice making occurs. Okay, so I'm lifting that up because we need to go even deeper to really answer your question, which is what is the actual reality? The actual reality is consciousness is the one thing that is,
Hmm.
and consciousness is one. It's unified.
Hmm.
Okay, so you and I and everybody listening to this today are actually connected. We're
Mhm,
actually connected to each other, as in we share being with each other.
mhm,
Love is that which is in alignment with that shared unity of being and serves it and upholds it and uplifts it and strengthens it, the whole unity of being,
mhm,
not just some little part. If there is a quality of intention that's pointed towards just one part, protecting the self, justifying the self,
mhm,
securing power, securing, extra security that might be at the expense of others, hurting other people to make myself feel better, all that stuff, that does not serve the whole because in hurting the other, you are actually hurting yourself because
Right.
the other is a part of yourself. And that's why in near death experiences, in a life review, we experience exactly how it felt to be the other person and how we affected them because we are the other person, you see.
Mm,
So love is the quality of intention that aligns with that truth and
mhm,
and shines that truth in an actualized way as a quality through specific choices, through
mm.
specific actualized circumstances and contexts and beliefs,
Well,
you know?
well, I love every word that you're saying in this conversation and then some because I'm seeing a lot of guests that I interview really tap in, to a lot of similar truths. For instance, I had Neil Donald Walsh a couple times on my channel, and I asked him, like, how do people go astray? And he said something along the lines, there's not billions of people on the planet. There's one person
Yeah.
in the room. And we need to just remember that there's only one
Amen.
person in this room. And so that was
It reminds me
beautiful.
it reminds me of a beautiful comment I recently heard from Rupert Spira, the non-duality teacher. He said that, something to the effect of that if our society was more, further along, more evolved, the first day of schooling for any public service type of job, the
Mhm.
entire first day would be dedicated to one idea. You
Mm.
share your being with all other beings.
Wow.
I
Mm,
mean, if you really knew that,
mm,
because it's actually true. Like, we actually
mhm,
do share our being with other beings.
mhm,
If we really knew that, think of how our world would change.
mhm,
All this us versus them struggling and striving, all the judgments and hurts, it would just evaporate. There's no need to hurt another part of yourself. It doesn't make sense for one finger on the hand to
mhm,
attack another when
mhm.
they're the same hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. So
Mhm,
we are each of us are constantly being gently, patiently called to feel that unified being and feel that love and choose it in our own lives in whatever way we can. And
mhm,
it's beautiful that that compass is always there, actually,
mhm,
because the higher portion of ourselves does see the forest for the trees. It's up on the cliff, it can see the whole thing.
mhm,
And so, even if we at the human level can't see clearly, if we're actually willing to listen to our intuition and to follow that feeling and that knowing, we tend to be guided into circumstances, choices, relationships, whatever,
mhm.
that more align and help actualize that love. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Dr. Michael Newton, and he, uh, I guess, accidentally, so to speak, came into the work of between life soul regression that help people
Mhm,
to access their pre-birth memories. But within his work, what he really regressed a client to do was to go to the source of their ailments and what they were going through, and they went directly
mhm.
to source. It seems like that happened to you to a degree with this traumatic experience and all the physical sensations that you were able to go, to like the source, and then that took you beyond the source. Is that a little
Are
bit
you
accurate
using
too?
the word source as in the source of the ailment or the source as in the capital S source of all things?
Both, yeah, both.
The capital
Yeah,
S
I'm saying,
source is
yeah.
first.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is like one, like the source of the pain, one is the giant source. But I guess my
Mhm,
question is like twofold is for people to really expand their energy,
mhm,
like how important is it to maybe address the shadow as Carl Jung spoke about, or to go to those places that are
mhm.
difficult to deal with? It seems like for you that was something that was profound in your journey.
Yes, it's critically important. I would lift up that when we talk about experience integration, I feel like there are 2 paths that are worth mentioning.
Mhm.
Let's call it 2 sides of a coin.
Mm,
On one side of the coin is your ability to consciously choose love and joy in any circumstance.
mm,
So you can choose the good. You can have fun.
mhm.
You can run in the rain.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the other side of the coin? The other side of the coin is when the dark crap arises, you can face it, you can feel it, you can process it.
Mm, mm,
They're actually synonymous.
Mhm.
Why is choosing love and focusing on the good synonymous with allowing the darkness and doing the deepest, craziest, most painful shadow work of your life? How are they synonyms? Because the truth of your being is love and joy and freedom. And
Mhm.
all the ice cubes that have frozen down in yourself, all the limitations that have gained form, all the tangles are not actually ultimately what you are. And so you can look at the tangles. You can untangle the tangles, which means process your trauma, own your
Mhm.
crap, feel your feelings, do the shadow work,
Mhm.
allow your experience to actually teach you and grow, even be humbled, not shameful, but
Mhm.
humbled. That's okay, to feel and allow yourself to be I say this carefully, molded by your experiences. I don't mean that in a way where it
Mhm.
has ultimate power over you because your experiences don't have ultimate power over you, but
Mhm.
allow them to actually teach you.
Mhm.
That process is an untangling, and when the tangle is fully untangled, we find we were always the love and the joy, except
Mhm.
now it's even deeper because now it knows what it's like to be tangled and to untangle. So they're
Mhm.
actually both joy. They're actually both love.
Right
But
on.
but the second one, this processing of fear is critical to the experience in the physical because it's not
Mhm.
all sunshine and roses for most people here on this planet. And it's very important that we face our yet unevolvedness and, choose to feel our crap and own our place in the world. That's super important.
Mhm.
And then one other comment that's worth mentioning here. Oh my gosh. So the human race is trying to do this as a whole right now,
Mm.
where we've got thousands of years of fear patterning that have really been dark. Lots
Yeah.
of darkness, so much darkness. When you face your own fear and face your own crap and unburden yourself, unchain yourself,
Mhm.
choose freedom, even if it's challenging, right? Really feel your stuff, really face your feelings, process your trauma. You are helping the entire collective consciousness to do that.
Mhm.
You're not only giving permission to others to do it because they feel it, even if they can't see it, you're also tapping into the tangle that is because there's like larger tangles going on here. And
Mhm.
so if you process your abuse, say,
Mhm.
or the betrayal you've experienced, say,
Mhm.
then you are actually for real doing that in a way that helps the entire collective
Mhm.
to do that. So
Right.
that is very powerful and important work. It's like
This is
lifting the weight. It's like lifting the weight on the weight bench. Sorry.
this is why I'm a mental health therapist. We're, trying to have global enlightenment over here, brother.
Amen. Amen, man.
Yeah, that's why I worked went into the field because yeah, there's a saying that said, yesterday I was smart, I wanted to change the world, and today I was wise and I decided to, work on myself. And I
Yeah.
I, I think that's so important because if each person were to think globally by acting locally, wow, what a shift we would have, right, Christian?
Amen. That's
Yeah.
see that, and there's an empowerment there because that's the real work. Working
Mhm.
with the mind and with the fear, helping people.
Mhm.
That's the real work. And there's this shift of empowerment. And I'm so passionate about this topic that this world, we have so much powerlessness that we have enshrined in our culture, in our
Mhm.
teachings, in our belief systems.
Mhm.
We have normalized powerlessness.
Mhm.
But here we are, pieces of the source, incredibly powerful beings who
Mhm.
have forgotten our powerlessness. And one of the most important things we can do is to remind each other, oh no, you are
Mhm.
powerful and you are worthy. You're
Mhm.
so worthy to actually go in and face that crap and choose something new.
Mhm.
That is the real service because if we make the change in consciousness, that is the real playing field for change. If we make the change there, the change in the physical will actualize subsequent to that. In fact, you can't make lasting change in the physical without first changing consciousness.
Mhm.
Consciousness is first, so that's the real playing field of work.
Love it. Christian, we're gonna have to have you back on because there's so much to unfold. But my one of my final questions for you, and you've just released so much powerful information that I know so many of my listeners are going to take in to depths their being. That we have a lot in common. Where both as infants and young children, we came here with a lot of memories and connection to spirit realm. Both, I guess, from someone who's done it, as you mentioned, as a father and also a direct experiencer as an infant who had all this great degree of awareness. Is there a way that we could change the world by how we treat or see young infants? Is there something that we are misunderstanding about infants when it deals to their own levels of consciousness and how that could maybe allow their trajectories to shift, or things are fine the way that they are and we should just, stay on course the way that we're
Oh, man,
operating?
I have strong feelings about that
Yeah.
topic. So, infants are not just infants. They are powerful multidimensional beings who have long soul journeys and great powers.
Yeah.
It's true that young people have less skills so far in this given lifetime,
Mhm.
but that doesn't change who they really are.
Mhm.
And so I personally feel it's super important to see young people for their power,
Mhm.
which means to honor their feelings. And it means to be open to what they're actually experiencing, not
Mhm.
to try to shove them inside of a preconceived box because our systems are pretty crude right now.
Mhm.
Whereas, especially the young people who are coming in who are more aware,
Yeah.
they tend to have a lot to teach us. So we
Mhm.
need to keep open-minded to that and be willing to serve them and learn from them. And I
Mhm.
find that if we meet the young with real presence, like really look in their eyes,
Mm.
really share that respect. Respect is a great word, like real respect, then they also tend to be more receptive when we have something to deliver to them about what we know that they might need to know, like about discipline or,
Mhm.
any of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
practical things that we need to do as parents.
Mhm.
They tend to be very much more willing and able to really take that on and internalize that and in a healthy way if they know that they're truly seen and heard and that they're valued. So I know that that might not sound like super specific, but honestly, this world is a place where millions and millions and millions of people for generations after
Mhm.
generations have not seen each other's power and have treated each other with, shameful, shame promoting behavior
Yeah.
and removed power. No, no, no. It's time to stop that and to stop hindering, to stop clipping the wings of those who have come in and to see them for who they are
Mhm.
and to share loving presence with them because there's this beautiful resonance that can occur
Yeah.
when we do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like you had your experience, and memories at such a young age to really validate that message, that you're
Mhm.
sharing because, I do believe kids are very much like clay and they're very impressionable, and
Yeah.
if we come at them in a different way, as you said, they could be a lot more empowered and Lord knows what they can do,
Absolutely.
with that, much like you. Before we go and, and we're never gonna depart because 'cause we're gonna have you, you're gonna reincarnate back here on this podcast as long as you're
Oh, boy.
as long as there's a willingness,
There is. Absolutely.
we our door's always open. Is there a final message that, is coming to you at this time? And also, how could people get in touch with all things Christian Sundberg, including your awesome book, A Walk in the Physical, that has impacted so many different people? I was listening to Heather Tesh, I believe, in your interview, and she said your book was the only book that she got both the audio, the paperback, and the Kindle of, and that's quite complimentary out of all the books out there. So it's really impacting lives.
Thank you. Well, the one thing I would wanna lift up, and this sounds simple, but it's, like, very true, and we can actually even test it.
Mhm.
There's nothing to actually fear. I know that that's not obvious, but I'm saying, like, guys, we have an opportunity here today. We have
Mhm.
a profound opportunity, and where you have fear in your life, and fear may manifest in different ways. It might appear as ego, like avoidance, anger, whatever. Wherever you notice that in yourself, it's okay. Look underneath. Why do you feel that way? And whatever that fear is underneath there, this is a cheat sheet ending because this can be very empowering. The negative self perception at its root is
Mhm.
not actually true. So if at the root of your fear is like a perception of I have shame or I'm powerless or nobody can love me, whatever,
Mhm.
no, that's
Mhm.
actually not true. And if we know that that root negative self perception is not actually true, we become so much more empowered to choose but more in a way that is in alignment with who we really are. And that's what all this is about. So that is another way to say be empowered. And
Mhm.
where you see powerlessness in your life, you're actually not. You're not without power. So please be reminded of that. This is the opportunity. I mean, like, we're in the middle of the marathon right now. It's back to the running metaphor. Like,
I
we're like
love it.
on mile 23 or whatever, like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we're in the middle of it. Okay, now what do you choose?
Mhm,
And there is incredible opportunity in choosing something that sees past that fear
mhm.
and aligns more with the joy of your authentic self.
Yeah,
So I think that's the most important message we can lift up.
and
Um,
we don't just have to run in the physical, we could walk in the physical,
we
I
can
suppose.
walk, we can lay. We actually, nothing is actually required of us. We can exist in a way that's quite easy, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
Awesome.
to your question about my work, my website is awalkinthephysical.com. The
Mhm,
book is available to be read online for free at the book page on that site. At the third link down, there's like a link to Google Book. Just click read for free. It's also on Amazon and Kindle or print or audiobook, like you said. There's a ton of talks and interviews on that page. Eventually, I'm going to get more into creating my own content.
mhm.
But for now, there's quite a bit of content on other channels there. I'm happy to try to respond to emails as well, but I often have too many to respond to. But it's a walkinthephysical@gmail.com.
Yeah. And I know that the pre-birth memories was something that you at times questioned, "Why me?" But Picasso once said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of it is to give it away." And literally, you're giving it away, this book, and I encourage all my members. But wow, what a gift to humanity, your journey has been, and continuing to really share it with so many people, and that's a beautiful thing. You're a true, brothers and sisters keeper. So Christian, you're welcome
Thanks,
back
brother.
anytime, and I encourage all of my viewers to check out all things Christian Sundberg. He's really making a difference and an impact on this globe, and a really powerful luminary, at least in my words. I know he's humble. So, but thank you for, just being you and sharing your message.
Thank you, brother. Your energy is amazing. Thank you for all the work you're doing, and thank you for sharing the love here in this place. We're doing it. Keep going.
Amen.
Much love, sir.
Well, thank you all for tuning in to this conversation. I learned so much about our life's purpose, our soul's journeys from someone who had a very direct experience with pre birth memories from a very young age. And I hope you also were able to learn so much about some of your bigger questions. And Christian's just a beam of wisdom and guidance to really walk this life in a much different perspective and angle. So, thank you so much, Christian, for being our guest. And thank you all for tuning in to this wonderful conversation that I know so many of you took so much of. Until next time, let's continue to ascend and grow and evolve. And thank you for tuning into this podcast interview with Christian Sundberg.